Om Namo Narayana, Jai Swaminarayan, Namaste. We are continuing our walk through the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Today we are in part 2, and we are reading actually a few sections, starting with section 2. He who knows the calf with its abode, its special resort, its post and its tether, kills his 7 envious kinsmen. The vital force in the body is indeed the calf. The body is its abode, the head its special resort, strength its post, and food its tether. These 7 gods that prevent decay worship it. Through these pink lines in the eye, Rudra attends on it. Through the water that is in the eye, Parjanya. Through the pupil, the sun. Through the dark portion, fire. Through the white portion, Indra. Through the lower eyelid, the earth attends on it. And through the upper eyelid, heaven. He who knows it as such never has any decrease of food. Regarding this, there is a following pithy verse. It says, there is a bowl that has its opening below and bulges at the top. Various kinds of knowledge have been put in it. 7 sages sit by its side, and the organ of speech, which has communication with the Vedas, is the 8th. The bowl that has an opening below and bulges at the top is the head of ours, for it is the bowl that has its opening below and bulges at the top. Various kinds of knowledge have been put in it refers to these organs. These indeed represent various kinds of knowledge. 7 sages sit by its side refer to the organs. They are indeed sages. The organ of speech, which has communication with the Vedas, is the 8th. Because the organ of speech is the 8th and communicates with the Vedas. These 2 ears are Gautama and Bharadvaja. These 2 eyes are Visvamitra and Jamadagni. These 2 nostrils are Vashista and Kasyapa. The tongue is Atri, for through the tongue food is eaten. Atri is but its name. He who knows this as such becomes the eater of all, and everything becomes his food. Thus ends section 2. Section 3. Brahma has but 2 forms, gross and subtle, mortal and immortal, limited and unlimited, defined and undefined. The gross form is that which is other than air and the ether. It is mortal, it is limited, and it is defined. The essence of that which is gross, mortal, limited, and defined is the sun that shines, for it is the essence of the defined. Now the subtle, it is air and the ether. It is immortal, it is unlimited, and it is undefined. The essence of that which is subtle, immortal, unlimited, and undefined is the being that is in the sun, for that is the essence of the undefined. This is with reference to the gods. Now, with reference to the body, the gross form is but this. What is this other than the corporeal air and the ether that is in the body? It is mortal, it is limited, and it is defined. The essence of that which is gross, mortal, limited, and defined is the eye, for it is the essence of the defined. Now the subtle. It is corporeal air, and the ether that is in the body. It is immortal, it is unlimited, and it is undefined. The essence of that which is subtle, immortal, unlimited, and undefined is this being that is the right eye, for this is the essence of the defined. The form of that being is as follows: like a cloth dyed with turmeric, or like gray sheep's wool, or like the scarlet insect called Indragopa, or like the tongue of fire, or like the white lotus, or like a flash of lightning. He who knows it as such attains splendor like a flash of lightning. Now therefore the description of Brahma, not this, not this, because there is no other and more appropriate than this, not this. Now is the name, the truth of truth. The vital force is truth, and it is the truth of that. Thus ends the 3rd section. And now the 4th section. Maitreyi, my dear, said Yajnavalkya, I am going to renounce this life. Allow me to finish between you and Katyayani. Thereupon Maitreyi said, Sir, if indeed this whole earth full of wealth be mine, shall I be immortal through that? No, replied Yajnavalkya, your life will be just like that of people who have plenty of things, but there is no hope of immortality through wealth. Thereupon Maitreyi said, Sir, if indeed this whole earth full of wealth be mine, shall I be immortal through all this? Replied Yajnavalkya, No, your life will be just like that of people who have plenty of things, but there is no hope of immortality through wealth." Then Maitreyi said, "What shall I do with that which will not make me immortal? Tell me, sir, of that alone which you know to be the only means of immortality." Yajnavalkya said, "My dear, you have been my beloved, even before now, and you say what is after my heart. Come, take your seat, I will explain it to you. As I explain it, meditate on its meaning. It is not for the sake of the husband that he is loved, but for one's own sake that he is loved. It is not for the sake of the wife that she is loved, but for one's own sake that she is loved. It is not for the sake of the sons that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of wealth that it is loved, but for one's own sake that it is loved. It is not for the sake of the Brahmana, my dear, that he is loved, but for one's own sake that he is loved. It is not for the sake of the Kshatriya that he is loved, but for one's own sake that he is loved. It is not for the sake of the worlds that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of beings that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of all that all is loved, but for one's own sake that it is loved. The self, my dear Maitreyi, should be realized, should be heard of, reflected on, and meditated upon. By the realization of the self, through hearing, reflection, and meditation, all this is known. The Brahmana slights one who knows him as different from the self. The Kshatriya ousts one who knows him as different from the self. Worlds oust one who knows them as different from the self. The gods oust one who knows them as different from the self. Beings oust one who knows them as different from the self. All oust one who knows it as different from the self. This Brahmana, this Kshatriya, these worlds, these gods, these beings, and this, all are this self. As when a drum is beaten, one cannot distinguish its various particular notes, but they are included in the general note of the drum, or in the general sound produced by different kinds of strokes. As when a conch is blown, one cannot distinguish its various particular notes, but they are included in the general note of the conch, or in the general sound produced by different kinds of playing. When a veena is played, one cannot distinguish its various particular notes, but they are included in the general note of the veena, or in the general sound produced by different kinds of playing. As from a fire kindled with a wet faggot, diverse kinds of smoke issue. Even so, the Rig Veda, the Yajurveda, Samaveda, Athar, Vangrasa, history, mythology, arts, Upanishads, pithy verses, aphorisms, elucidations, and explanations are like the breath of this infinite reality. They are like the breath of this supreme self. As the ocean is the one goal of all sorts of water, as the skin is the one goal of all sorts of touch, as the nostrils are the one goal of all odors, as the tongue is the one goal of all tastes, as the eye is the one goal of all colors, as the ear is the one goal of all sounds, as the manas is the one goal of all kinds of deliberation, as the intellect is the one goal of all kinds of knowledge, as the hands are the one goal of all sorts of work, as the organs of generation is the one goal of all kinds of enjoyment, as the anus is the one goal of excretions, as the feet are the one goal of all kinds of walking, as the organ of speech is the one goal of all the Vedas. As a lump of salt dropped into water dissolves with its component water, and no one is able to pick it up, but from wheresoever one takes it, it tastes salty. Even so, this great and this infinite reality is but pure intelligence. The self comes out as a separate entity from these elements, and this separateness is destroyed with them. After attaining this oneness, it has no more consciousness. This is what I say. Maitreya then said, "Just here you have thrown me into confusion, sir, by saying that after attaining oneness, the self has no more consciousness." Yajnavalkya replied, "Certainly I am not saying anything confusing, my dear. This is quite sufficient for knowledge, my dear Maitreyi. Because when there is a duality, as it were, then one smells something, one sees something, one hears something, one speaks something, one thinks something, one knows something. But when to the knower of Brahman everything has become the self, then what should one smell, and through what? What should one see, and through what? What should one hear, and through what? What should one speak, and through what? What should one think, and through what? What should one know, and through what? Through what should one know that knowing to which all is known? Through what, my dear Maitreyi, should one know the knower? Thus ends part 4. And we're going to actually pause here for today. So we're very familiar with these ideas, but here's your homework assignment. You know this, we all know this stuff. But what does it mean for you? What does it actually mean for you? You may be able to discuss this intellectually, you may understand it logically, but do you feel it? And does this make a change in your life? And next time we will pick up section 5 of this part 2. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Swaminarayan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.